Hey everybody, we are back to our regularly scheduled Facebook Live UX audits. I had attempted to do one last week while I was on vacation in Cabo, but it didn't work out. I think that was my computer, the Wi-Fi telling me to just go out and get some sun. And I got a little bit, but as you can see, I'm still pretty pasty. And also a little bit bedraggled today because I'm currently in Chicago. I woke up at 5 a.m. to take a 7 a.m. flight, so I'm just kind of trying to push through it right now. But at any rate, what I wanted to do this week was go back and talk about the website that I had started to audit last week and then got cut off. So we're going to just start from the top and just go through. This is another Denver Blogger Club members blog. So I'm going to switch my screen so you can see it here. And it might be a little bit weird at the end of this because I'm working with my laptop instead of my normal computer, and it's just like a bunch of windows at once with this thing that I use to stream these live. So anyway, so the blog that we're talking about, if you were here last week, it's the same one. It's called Rise and Yum, and it is a food blog that shares recipes and Denver brunch reviews. So what I had started to say last week is, first of all, that I really love the simplicity of this layout design. I actually also really love the logo. It's simple, but it's pretty, it gets to sort of the heart of what this brand is about. So I think that in terms of things like branding, this blog does a really great job with that. The first thing that I noticed that's maybe problematic is the fact that we have this menu navigation on two separate lines. Ideally, I like to see all your major menu items on one line, and then, having subcategories for those major menu items. That's how I set up my website, the Blogsmith. And I think that this website could be easily changed to a one-line sort of navigational menu if the recipes were all under one category. So they're organized by how long they take to make. So, maybe the category title is like recipes by time, recipes by, total prep time, something like that. And then literally just putting these same menu items under that would fix this problem. Another thing that I see often taking up space in a top level menu where it probably doesn't need to be there is having like a policies and disclosures, terms and conditions, privacy policy, any of those sorts of pages, which might be required to have on your website, especially if you are in the European Union and are affected by GDPR or serve those customers. But it doesn't have to be in the top menu. What I would prefer, or where I would prefer to see it, is in that bottom footer menu. So anyway, let's go ahead and look a little bit more at the content here. So she has a couple featured posts up here. I'm guessing that they are either the ones that have been posted most recently, or, maybe she went in and manually tagged these because they are the most popular posts. Whatever the case, what I would love to see in the titles is maybe a little bit more of a description. Like, for example, it looks like this one in the middle, Wendell's Breakfast, is one of the brunch reviews as opposed to being a recipe. So we've been adding an identifier in the title, such as Denver Brunch Review, semicolon, would add some context to this for somebody who's new to the site, or who comes in on this page as like the first page, like maybe they, are looking up something in search and then they click through and they land on this page, but they don't see all the stuff about what this website is about, even though granted it's in the header. Either way, adding context to your title can only really do good things for you. Another thing that is kind of a do as I say, not as I do is the use of excerpts, the right use of excerpts. In WordPress, certain themes make use of excerpts when it comes to blog posts, which are just a short sort of summary of what the content is about. And if you don't define it, it usually just picks up the first couple lines of the blog post, the content itself. But by taking the time to customize the excerpt, what I do is I usually take whatever I'm using for either my meta description, which is already sort of like a short summary that's written in a way that's trying to get people to click through, or whatever I've set as my open graph tags, the description that shows up when people share it on social. One of those things, if you're already doing it, just copy and paste it for your excerpt, and it's no extra work for you to do. So that's kind of a note to self for me to go back in and do that. I think the way that my theme is set up compared to this one is that it's like a shorter excerpt. It's only a sentence or two. So for situations like that, you'd either want to kind of expand the parameters of your theme, which might require working with a web developer, or, obviously just go shorter with the text that you're using for the preview. So that's something I have to think about, and something that I hope you'll think about as well. So, what I really like about this site is the social proof, mentioning that there are 491 other subscribers who've already kind of vetted this blog, liked it enough to sign up for emails. But what I would like to see in the copy around getting people to sign up are things like setting expectations for how often they'll receive this email. Is there a certain day of the week? What are they going to receive in the email? Is it literally just new posts? Or, are there going to be other special pieces of content that are subscriber only that might get people to go ahead and push that button? Obviously, she's not having a hard time signing people up. 491 subscribers is nothing to scoff at, but, why not go for more? So I'd love to see this picture of Mary and her brief bio somewhere a little closer up, like maybe even before the subscribe thing, because I talk about this a lot, but people only buy from those that they know, like, and trust. And so obviously part of running a blog is being, well, not obviously, but in this case, part of running a blog is having a personality, a brand, being, the type of person that people think that they can connect with. Even if they're not talking to you one-to-one, there's this idea that there's a conversation happening, or maybe not a conversation, but that there's a back and forth in terms of, reading the blog post, following somebody, maybe commenting or engaging with them on social. Even if they never hear back, there's still this idea that there's a person behind the content. And so in order to get those people to want to get to know you more, start to like you and to trust you, then you need to introduce yourself to them before you try to convert them into an email subscriber. So it's a minor thing, but that's the reasoning behind it. So then I remember talking about this too, these top posts here. Again, these are probably just, the posts that get the most clicks or the most engagement in some way. And so it's good that you're making it easy for people to access those without having to do too much clicking around. The problem is that there is no text around them. Granted, when I mouse over them, there's some alt descriptions that do say what the recipes are, but this would be harder to make work in this type of way on like a mobile device. The alt tags probably won't come up even when you're scrolling over them or even when you're pressing on them. So having some sort of static overlay that says, what the recipe is for would definitely be an improvement, and it would help set expectations before people click through, so that they know what the recipe is. Even though it might seem self-evident by the pictures, take that extra step, and just a small design change can make that a lot more useful and more compelling to click through. So what is this? I wonder if it didn't load right. It looks like an Instagram widget. I'm going to reload the page to see if that's just Wi-Fi or something. And I think in general, Instagram widgets are good things, especially for a food blogger to have. That's so weird. I wonder if that's like a Google Chrome thing or if it's a website issue. So I'm going to open it in Safari just to kind of double check what's going on here. See if there's a browser issue or not. But like you can see here, it looks like some of those images aren't loading. And the site itself is actually loading kind of slow too, which is something that Mary will definitely want to look into in terms of using plugins to speed it up, whether that be an image optimization plugin like Short Pixel or a caching plugin like WP Rocket, which is, I use both of those on my website. So yeah, it looks like it's happening here too. And again, I can't say if that's like a Wi-Fi thing or what, but something to look into. It doesn't look good when things break. It could be an outdated plugin. It could be a compatibility issue with your theme or even with the core version of WordPress, but definitely look into this. I also like to see whenever you have like a social feed having a heading that says like, follow me on Instagram. Yes, it does say that on this button down here, but you don't see it until you scroll down. So again, it's that idea of setting expectations. So now that sidebar has run out, it looks like we have like an infinite scroll, or maybe not an infinite scroll, but a set number of posts per page. And I would recommend limiting those posts so that it lines up, maybe if not neatly, then roughly where the bottom of that sidebar ends. So we have 1, 2, let's see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then the featured post. So if you had 10 of these posts listed and, the structure of the sidebar doesn't change, limiting it to 10 posts would be better, I think, from a design standpoint. And then people can still go, obviously, to previous posts or, using your top navigation to navigate to where they're going. So it doesn't look like there's a footer here. There is in terms of listing some of the resources that have been used to make this site, such as the specific theme, and it looks like another one of your plugins or something is generating this other thing, which if it were me, I would get rid of both of these things, honestly, unless, using this call out here as like a term of conditions for using the theme for free, or, a condition from the designer who made your website or something like that. I would just keep this copyright information. And then what I would do to flesh out the footer is add all your top level menu navigation and maybe also listing out all of those recipe categories. And because you can't really do a drop down in a footer. I mean, you could, but it would be complicated and not an expected design heuristic. And then what I would also do is add whatever your main social feed is again here. So if you've already used Instagram, maybe it's actually just putting a button in, but if you use like Pinterest, that could be another good place to remind people that you're on social media and giving them a preview of what your feed is. So we're already getting close to 15 minutes here, so I'm not going to go into any of the individual pages, but I think I've given you guys a lot to think about with regards to this particular audit. And, as always, if you are interested in me auditing your website in the future, just let me know and I will add you to my list. But in the meantime, I'm going to call it a day and start to get through my emails. Bye. If I can figure out how to quit.